And because of that, they've got to wait for this woman to be dealt with. The entire ministry comes to a halt. They could have left her.
That's right. That's right.
But the man of God over the ministry of God, the Bible says is one of the most humblest men that had ever been created. He is able to overlook their deciding to assassinate his character, and he decides to exercise a shepherd's heart. And he says, no, I can't leave one of my sheep. We've got to all get to our destination safely together. And they bring the movement of the ministry to a halt. And then Miriam is out of the camp for 7 days. And in the 7 days' time, after Moses prays for her, after the 7 days, she ends up being restored. And then the ministry can move on again. And so I need you to understand this. Whenever you experience a setback, whether it was your own doing or the doing of somebody else, there is a time of restoration that you can look forward to. Don't allow the setback to keep you back. Don't allow the setback to keep you down. Don't allow the setback to break your spirit. All you need to vibe into is that a setback is temporary, it's momentary, and after a while, restoration will finally come. Do you understand it? So it's very important, even for those of us who are looking at somebody who may have caused us to experience a setback. The Bible says that those of us who are spiritual, we've got to eventually restore such a one in a spirit of meekness, because another day can come when we need to be restored. So setbacks are momentary. They are a slowing down of progress. So where was the setback in this verse? They ended up having to stop moving on toward their promised land for this woman to get an attitude check, and then they ended up moving forward, right? The setback was caused by the actions of Miriam and Aaron. The slowing down of the progress was caused by two people being influenced by evil. And the setback affected everyone involved in the journey. So although setbacks can be impacting, although setbacks can be challenging, although setbacks can be frustrating, we don't have to give into it and allow it to mess us all up and get us totally off course. Sometimes when the setback occurs, if we just stop and stand still, if we just stop and begin to pray, if we just stop and get a right attitude, we can overcome any setback that we end up facing. So in the beginning of our lesson, though, I shared that setbacks happen to everyone, and that we couldn't afford to take that we can't afford to take those setbacks personal, right? But in this instance, the setback was caused by hidden feelings of the heart made public. I want you to be careful about something. You have to always monitor your heart. The Bible tells you that your heart is desperately wicked. It's deceitful, man. It's a mess. And so you have to always monitor your heart, or your heart will influence your mind to think some thoughts that are not of God. Your heart will influence your mind to conjure up some things that are not of God. Your heart will convince your body to exercise some actions that might cost you your ministry. So it's very important that you understand how to monitor your heart, and to make sure that if you got some feelings, some hidden feelings in your heart that are looking for opportunities to manifest themselves publicly, you better be careful. You better be very, very careful, because your heart might mess up a whole lot of stuff. Some setbacks are caused, watch this, in spite of us, and others are caused because of us.
All right.
So there are some setbacks that can set in motion you didn't have anything to do with. You couldn't control it, and now you may be experiencing, though, the fruits of it. There are other setbacks, though, that are caused simply because of us. Said something, did something, went somewhere, harbored something, bought into something, vibed into something, got influenced by someone or something, and now before you know it, you all caught up. Didn't even want to be in there. But the last thing to keep in mind concerning setbacks is that, it's temporary. It's a temporary defeat. That was the next definition, right? It's a temporary defeat. And so I want to ask you this question at this particular moment. What is your setback? What is the temporary defeat that you might be experiencing right now, but you have not identified that is what it is? And since you don't know that that's what it is, you're handling and managing it improperly.
It's all right.
You understand? So when you don't identify thing and know what you're dealing with it, you can begin to manage it improperly, and then you suffer the effects of it. Just because it appears as if you're losing right now doesn't mean you've lost.
Well,
do you get that?
Yes.
Just because you might have a temporary setback doesn't mean that that's it, the end, cut, it's a wrap. No, you got to understand that sometimes setbacks are just temporary defeats. Miriam was brought back, her attitude was different, and the people moved on. See, because God is a great restorer. And God is not always sitting up there waiting to lower the boom on you. No, He really wants to restore you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
He really wants to put you back in place. He really wants to heal you because you're so valuable to Him. And so you need to understand that right now when you're experiencing some setbacks, it could be your health, it could be your finances, it could be your marriage, it could be your husband, your wife, your in-laws, your outlaws. It could be the people on your job, people in your neighborhood. It could be your church and your ministry. It could be a whole lot of things that are setbacks. But that doesn't mean that's where it ends.
That's right.
It's just a temporary slowing down of the progress. It's just a temporary defeat, but you can rise above it and overcome it. And you can move on.
That's good.
All right, now what is the setup? A setup is when circumstances, watch this is my own definition. A setup is when circumstances are manipulated or tampered with in order to affect the outcome of the situation. So a setup is when somebody wants an outcome to be a particular way, so they do something to manipulate the circumstances so that the outcome will be what they want it to be. You've heard it, a fixed fight. So somebody can literally see two boxers getting ready to come in contact with one another. Somebody might have influence or power or money. They decide to fix the fight. So they pay and they get one of the boxers to take what we call a dive. So they'll fight for a while. They look like they're really giving their all, but somewhere along the journey of the fight, what they will do is they will begin to act like they're starting to get beat. Then they'll get knocked down, knowing that they weren't really knocked down, but they decided to get knocked down so that they could alter the outcome of the fight.
Yes.
It's a setup. Do you understand that? It's a setup. Things were tampered with.
Yes.
So the effects could be what I wanted them to be. You know what a setup is. You know, I'm going to plant some things right here and make it look like it's yours. I'm going to say something utilizing words I would normally hear you say, so that the people who didn't hear you say it, they know your terminology though, and they will automatically assume or deduce once they hear what they heard. Oh, I know she said it. I know he said it. Sounds just like them. Have you ever heard people say that? Sounds just like them. That's a setup, man. I'm going to create a situation that causes you to have to respond a certain way, or I'm going to fix the outcome to end in a certain way because I've tampered with it. A setup. Some things happen in our lives, or some of the things that happen in our lives are setups by God. The situation that occurred was set in motion for a certain outcome, and that's why it's important not to take things personal. And so here we are, God being in control of everything. He's setting you up for a particular thing, but He understands that in order to get you to point B from point A, He's got to manipulate a circumstance or a situation to nudge you toward point B, or you would never leave point A. Or sometimes He's got to raise some people up in your life and give you some experiences that you would have never had He not raised these people up in your life. And so it's a setup. He's trying to make sure that you get to an expected end, but He knows He's got to manipulate the situation to get you there.
You're all right. You're all right.
So some of your disappointments, some of your frustrations, some of the times you heard no when you really wanted to hear yes. Some of the things you just decided to do on your own, God not wanting you to fall totally on your face, had to now manipulate the situation to cause an outcome that you could have potentially altered. God sets some things in motion, and there's the danger. You don't know all the time that it's happening. Because the power in the setup is that you don't know. That's why you bet against it, or that's why you agree with it, or that's why you go for it, because you don't know. If you knew that it was a setup, then you would do something different. But the setup is something you don't know about. And so sometimes God is doing some things in the heavenly realm and in the spirit realm that you can't see. And because you can't see it, when you are guided by your feelings, and when you walk by sight and not by faith, what you see will alter what you do, and what you feel will dictate what you say. And so sometimes God is trying to hook you up. God is trying to set you up for blessing. God is trying to manipulate some things so you can walk in prosperity. God is trying to send you the answer to your prayer. God is trying to give you the desires of your heart. But because all you can do is see, This far from it.